The ship moved through space like a dark shadow. It was bigger than most cities on Earth, but Earth did not know it existed yet. Inside the ship, something very dangerous was planning its next hunt. Commander Zakthul stood in front of a large screen showing a small blue planet. He was 8 feet tall and covered in black scales that looked like armor. His yellow eyes could see things that most creatures could not see. His claws were sharp enough to cut through metal. When he breathed, steam came from his nose. Zakthul was a HFY. His people were the most feared hunters in the galaxy. For 3,000 years, they had traveled from world to world, taking what they wanted. No one could stop them. Every creature in space knew their name and was afraid. The blue planet on the screen was called Earth by the creatures who lived there. The creatures called themselves humans. Zakthul had been watching them for many days now. They seemed weak and stupid. They fought each other all the time over small things. Their weapons were simple. Their ships were slow and ugly. A younger HFY walked up to Zakthul. His name was Morgesh, and he was Zakthul's helper. Morgesh carried a datapad with information about the humans. "Commander, we have finished studying the humans," Morgesh said. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stones. "They are very primitive. They only learned to travel between stars a few years ago. They have no real army. Most of them live on just one planet." Zakthul smiled, showing teeth like sharp knives. "Good. What about their weapons?" "Very basic," Morgesh replied. "They use chemical explosives and metal bullets. Their armor is weak. They cannot even see in the dark properly. They also fight among themselves constantly. We counted over 200 different nations on their world, many at war with each other. This made Zakthul very happy. Divided enemies were easy enemies. When creatures fought each other, they could not work together to fight the HFY. It was perfect." "What about special abilities?" Zakthul asked. "Some creatures in the galaxy could read minds or move things without touching them. These abilities made hunting more difficult. None that we can detect," Morgesh said. "They seem to be completely normal mammals. No psychic powers, no advanced technology, no natural weapons or armor. They are soft and pink and weak." Zakthul walked around the control room of his ship. Other HFY warriors were at their stations preparing for the hunt. Each warrior was a perfect killer. They had trained their whole lives for this. Their claws could tear through most metals. Their scales could stop energy weapons. They could smell fear from miles away. The HFY hunting fleet had 12 ships just like this one. Each ship carried 50 warriors, 600 of the galaxy's deadliest predators were about to attack one small planet of weak mammals. It was like using a hammer to kill a fly. "Tell me about their military," Zakthul said. Morgesh looked at his datapad. "They have many small groups they call armies and navies. The largest has maybe 2 million soldiers, but these soldiers use very old weapons. We watch them fight each other in something they call wars. They line up and shoot at each other with chemical guns. Sometimes they hit things with metal sticks. It is very primitive. How many ships do they have in space? Maybe 40 or 50 that could fight. All very slow and weak. Our plasma cannons will destroy them in minutes." Zakthul was pleased. This would be the easiest hunt in years. The Galactic Council paid well for new planets, especially ones with useful resources. Earth had water, metals, and good soil. The humans also looked like they might make interesting slaves for species that liked keeping pets. The plan was simple, like all good plans. The HFY fleet would jump into the human star system and destroy any ships that tried to fight. Then, they would land on Earth and capture cities one by one. They would take the leaders alive for questioning and kill anyone who resisted. The rest would be sold to other species or kept as servants. "How long until we reach their system?" Zakthul asked. 6 hours, Commander," replied the ship's pilot. Zakthul nodded. "Send word to all ships. We will arrive at maximum speed and show no mercy. This will be a lesson to any other species that thinks they can hide from us." Around the galaxy, stories were told about the HFY. Parents used these stories to scare their children into behaving. Governments paid huge amounts of money to make sure the Kethvar hunted their enemies instead of them. Entire species had gone extinct because they tried to fight back. The Kethvar had rules for hunting. First, they would study their prey from a distance. Then they would attack quickly and with overwhelming force. They never gave warnings. They never asked for surrender. They simply took what they wanted and destroyed everything else. Zach Thule had led over 50 hunts in his lifetime. He had destroyed cities, conquered planets, and made entire species disappear. Some prey fought back with courage. Some tried to hide. Some begged for mercy. None of it mattered. The Kethvar always won. Though, humans would be no different. They were just another weak species that had grown too big for the galaxy to ignore. Soon they would learn what every other species had learned. The Kethvar were unstoppable. "Commander," Morgesh said, interrupting his thoughts. "Should we try to communicate with them first? Some species surrender when they see our ships." Zakthul laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Look at them, Morgesh. They cannot even stop fighting each other. Do you think they would have the sense to surrender to us?" Morgesh looked at the screen showing Earth. Even now he could see lights from explosions where humans were fighting wars. "No, Commander. They seem too stupid to know when they are beaten." "Exactly. We will teach them, the hard way." The other Kethvar warriors were excited. It had been months since their last hunt, and they were eager for action. They sharpened their claws and checked their weapons. They told stories about their greatest kills. They made bets about how long the humans would last. Most thought the humans would surrender after the first city was destroyed. A few believed it might take 3 or 4 cities. None of them thought it would take more than a week to conquer the entire planet. Zakthul was more careful. He had survived so long by never underestimating prey completely, but even he could not imagine these soft, weak creatures causing real problems. Their weapons were too primitive, their technology too basic, their society too divided. "Prepare for jump," the pilot announced. The ship's engines began to hum with power. Around them, 11 other ships did the same. In a few hours, they would drop out of hyperspace in the human star system. Then, the hunt would begin. Zakthul stood straight and proud. His warriors looked up to him with respect and fear. He was about to add another victory to his long list of conquests. Another species would learn to fear the Kethvar name. But as the ships jumped into hyperspace, racing toward the small blue planet, none of them knew they were about to meet something they had never encountered before. They were about to discover that sometimes the most dangerous predators were the ones that looked like prey. The hunt was about to begin. But the question was, who would be hunting whom? Lieutenant Jake Morrison was drinking coffee when the alarm started screaming. He was working the night shift at Frontier Base, a small space station that watched for signals from deep space. It was usually boring work. Most nights, nothing happened at all. But tonight was different. His computer screen was showing things that should not exist. 12 massive objects had appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. They were moving fast toward Earth. Jake dropped his coffee cup. It crashed on the floor, but he did not notice. He was staring at the readings on his screen. The objects were clearly ships, but they used technology that Earth had never seen before. They were not sending any messages. They were not responding to radio calls. They were just coming. Dr. Lisa Grant ran into the control room. She was the station's expert on alien life, even though no one had ever found any aliens before. She looked at Jake's screen and went very pale. "Are those what I think they are?" she asked. "Alien ships," Jake said quietly. 12 of them. And they are coming straight for us. Lisa felt excited and terrified at the same time. This was the moment every scientist dreamed about. First contact with alien life. But something felt wrong. The ships were not trying to talk. They were not slowing down. They looked like they were coming to fight. "We need to tell Earth," Lisa said. Jake was already working on it. He sent emergency messages to every government and military base on the planet. The messages were simple. Alien ships detected. Approaching Earth, intentions unknown. On Earth, Admiral Pete Collins was asleep when his phone rang. He commanded the Earth Defense Fleet, which was mostly just a fancy name for all the spaceships Earth could put together if there was an emergency. Collins had never expected to actually use them. The phone call changed everything. 12 alien ships, each the size of a city, heading for Earth. No communication, no explanation, just silent, deadly approach. Collins jumped out of bed and ran to his command center. Within an hour, every ship Earth could find was heading toward the alien fleet. 37 ships in total. Some were military. Some were converted cargo ships, with weapons bolted on. A few were private ships whose owners volunteered to fight. Collins knew it was not enough. The alien ships were huge and advanced, but Earth had to try. Humans had never been good at giving up without a fight. Captain Amy Watson commanded the EDS Defiance, one of Earth's newest destroyers. She was scared but determined as her ship moved toward the alien fleet. Around her, other human ships did the same. They were like tiny fish swimming toward hungry sharks. Commander Zach Thule watched the human ships approach on his main screen. He was amused by their courage and annoyed by their stupidity. The human fleet looked like toys compared to his mighty warships. Their weapons were primitive. Their shields were weak. This would be over quickly. "Shall we destroy them all at once?" Morgesh asked. "No," Zachthel replied. "Let them fire first. I want to see what these mammals think they can do to us." The two fleets met in the empty space between Mars and Earth. For a moment, nothing happened. The human ships spread out in a battle formation they had practiced many times but never used. For real. The alien ships just kept moving forward like they owned the entire universe. Admiral Collins spoke on the radio to all human ships. "This is Admiral Collins to all vessels. We do not know who these aliens are or what they want, but they have come to our home without invitation and without explanation. We will defend Earth and all human life. Fight well, fight bravely, make them remember this day." Captain Watson felt her heart beating fast as she heard the Admiral's words. She looked at her crew. They were all young and scared, but they were ready to die for their planet. She was proud of them. "Fire all weapons," Collins ordered. 37 human ships opened fire at the same time. Missiles streaked through space. Energy beams lanced out toward the alien vessels. For a few seconds, space was full of light and explosions. When the light faded, the alien ships were still there. The human weapons had barely scratched their thick armor. A few scorch marks, some dents. Nothing serious. Zachthol laughed. "Is that all? Morgesh, show them how real weapons work." The Keithvar ships fired back. Plasma cannons that could melt asteroids opened up on the human fleet. The first volley destroyed 3 human ships instantly. They simply vanished in balls of fire and metal. But the humans did not run away. They kept fighting. They kept firing their weak weapons at the unstoppable alien ships. Even as their friends died around them, they stayed and fought. Captain Watson watched the EDS Liberty explode. Admiral Collins was on that ship. Now she was in command of what was left of the human fleet. She had maybe 2 minutes before the Yao. Aliens destroyed her ship too. "All ships, this is Captain Watson," she said on the radio. "We cannot win this fight with weapons, but we can still hurt them. Ram the largest ship. Take as many of them with us as we can." The surviving human ships turned toward the Keithvar flagship. They pushed their engines to maximum power. They were going to turn themselves into weapons. Zachthol could not believe what he was seeing. The mammals were flying their ships directly at his fleet. They were going to crash into the Keithvar vessels on purpose. It was insane. It was suicide. It was something he had never seen any prey species do before. "Stop them," he ordered. Keithvar weapons fired again and again. More human ships died. But some got through. Captain Watson's ship, the EDS Defiance, slammed into the side of a Keithvar cruiser at full speed. The explosion was visible from Earth. When the battle was over, the human fleet was gone. All 37 ships destroyed. Thousands of human lives lost. But 2 Keithvar ships were badly damaged. One might not be able to fight again. Zakthul stared at the wreckage floating in space. In 3,000 years of hunting, no prey species had ever hurt his fleet this badly. The mammals had used weapons that barely worked and ships that were falling apart, but they had fought like demons. "Commander," Morgesh said quietly, "the humans are sending us a message." "What kind of message?" "It is from their planet. Someone called the President of Earth Defense Command. He says they will never surrender. He says if we want their world, we will have to take it from their dead hands." Zakthul was quiet for a long time. Then he spoke to his fleet. "Prepare for planetary invasion, but be careful. These mammals are not what they appear to be." On Earth, the news of the fleet's destruction spread quickly. Every human on the planet knew that alien invaders were coming. But instead of panic, something else happened. Anger, determination, the desire for revenge. General Carol Adams stood in the Pentagon, looking at reports from around the world. Every nation on Earth was preparing for war. Old enemies were becoming allies. Weapons were being distributed to anyone who could hold them. The entire planet was turning into a fortress. "How long do we have?" asked President Robert Hayes. "Maybe 6 hours before they reach Earth," Adams replied. "They will probably try to land in major cities first. Then we make sure those cities are ready for them," the president said. "Send word to everyone. The aliens think we are weak because we fight each other. Let us show them what happens when humans fight together." Around the world, people were preparing. Soldiers, police, firefighters, teachers, farmers, and factory workers. Everyone who could hold a weapon was getting ready to defend their home. The aliens had superior technology and stronger bodies, but they had never faced anything like angry humans protecting their families and their world. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one with nothing left to lose. The real war was about to begin. Major Ben Rodriguez crouched behind a broken wall in what used to be downtown Los Angeles. 3 days ago, this had been a busy city full of people and cars and noise. Now it was empty and quiet. Too quiet. The alien ships had landed exactly where everyone expected them to. New York, London, Tokyo, Los Angeles, and other big cities around the world. The Kethvar had come down in their smaller ships, expecting to find millions of scared humans hiding in buildings. Instead, they found ghost towns. Ben watched through his binoculars as a group of 8 aliens walked down the empty street. They were even bigger and scarier in person than in the videos from space. Their black scales looked like armor. Their yellow eyes moved back and forth, searching for prey. Their claws left scratches in the concrete as they walked. The Kethvar were confused. They had expected to find humans cowering in their homes. They had expected easy targets and quick victories. Instead, they found empty buildings and silent streets. Where were all the people? What the aliens did not know was that humans had been planning for this moment since the space battle. Every major city had been evacuated in less than 48 hours. Millions of people had been moved to hidden bunkers, mountain caves, and underground shelters. The cities were empty, but they were not undefended. Sergeant Kate Phillips lay on her stomach on a rooftop 6 blocks away from Ben's position. She had been a police sniper before the invasion. Now she was something more important. She was humanity's best hope of finding the aliens' weak spots. Kate looked through her rifle scope at the lead alien. She had studied the video footage from the space battle over and over. Human weapons had barely hurt the alien ships, but the aliens themselves might be different. Everything had weak points. Everything could be killed if you knew where to shoot. She aimed at the alien's eye, the yellow eye that looked so confident and cruel. Kate took a deep breath, held it, and squeezed the trigger. The bullet hit the Kethvar warrior right in the left eye. The creature dropped instantly, 8 feet of deadly predator falling like a cut tree. Green blood pooled on the concrete around its head. The other aliens spun around looking for the shooter. They had never seen one of their own die so quickly and easily. For a moment they stood still in shock. That moment was all Ben needed. "Now!" he shouted into his radio. Explosions erupted all around the alien patrol. Hidden charges that had been planted under the street and in buildings went off at the same time. Windows shattered, walls collapsed. 2 more aliens disappeared under tons of falling concrete and steel. The surviving aliens tried to find cover, but there was nowhere to hide. From every building, every rooftop, every basement window, human weapons opened fire. Not the big guns from the spaceships, but small arms. Rifles, machine guns, grenade launchers, and weapons taken from dead aliens in other battles. Captain Steve Murphy led his squad out of a subway entrance behind the aliens. His men had been waiting in the tunnels for hours. They wore captured alien armor and carried alien weapons. They had learned to use the enemy's own tools against them. The battle lasted 10 minutes. When it was over, all 8 aliens were dead. The humans had lost 2 men, but they had learned something very important. The galaxy's most feared hunters could be killed. Similar battles were happening in every city around the world. The HFY had expected to conquer Earth in a few days. Instead, they were losing warriors every hour to an enemy that seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at the same time. Commander Zach Thule stood in his command ship, staring at reports from the surface. His forces had taken heavy casualties in just the first day of ground fighting. Worse, they had barely found any humans to capture or kill. The mammals seemed to have vanished into thin air. "How many warriors have we lost?" he asked Morgesh. 47 confirmed dead, 23 missing, 12 wounded too badly to fight. Zach Thule could not believe what he was hearing. In 3,000 years of hunting, he had never lost so many warriors so quickly. "What about prisoners? How many humans have we captured?" "None, Commander. We have found some hiding in basements and sewers. But when we try to capture them, they fight until they die. Or they kill themselves with explosives rather than be taken alive." This was not how hunts were supposed to work. Prey was supposed to run or hide or beg for mercy. Prey was not supposed to fight back with such skill and determination. Prey was not supposed to turn their own cities into death traps. Colonel Frank Davis sat in a command bunker deep under the Rocky Mountains. He was in charge of coordinating the defense of the entire planet. Reports were coming in from every major city, and they were all saying the same thing. The aliens were strong and tough, but they could be beaten. "What have we learned about their weaknesses?" he asked Dr. Helen Price, who had been studying captured alien equipment. "Their scales can stop most of our bullets, but not all of them. High-powered rifles can get through, especially at close range. Their eyes are completely unprotected, and they seem to rely too much on their sense of smell." "How does that help us?" "They track us by scent. But we have been using chemicals from their own dead to mask our smell. They cannot tell the difference between a live human and a dead alien anymore." This gave Frank an idea. "Can we use that to set traps?" "Already happening. Teams in Paris and Berlin have been leaving false scent trails that lead aliens into ambush zones. The creatures think they are following fleeing humans, but they are really walking into kill zones." Lieutenant Nancy Kim was doing exactly that, in the subway tunnels under New York City. She had covered herself and her squad in alien blood and chemicals. To the HFY noses, they smelled like their own kind. Nancy waited in the darkness as heavy footsteps echoed through the tunnel. A hunting party of 6 aliens was following what they thought was the trail of scared humans. In reality, Nancy's team had spent hours creating a fake scent trail that led directly to this dead-end tunnel. The aliens walked into the trap without suspecting anything. When they realized they were surrounded, it was too late. Nancy's team opened fire with flamethrowers and captured plasma weapons. The tunnel became a furnace. None of the aliens survived. Dr. Alan Brooks was working in a mobile laboratory, studying the bodies of dead HFY warriors. What he found surprised him. These creatures were not just physically superior to humans. They were also mentally dependent on their success as hunters. "Look at these brain scans," he told his assistant. "The HFY brain produces chemicals that make them confident and aggressive when they are winning. But when they start losing, those same chemicals turn against them. They become confused and scared. So the more we beat them, the weaker they get?" "Exactly. Their own biology is working against them now. Every defeat makes the next defeat more likely." This information was sent to every human commander on the planet. The aliens were not just losing warriors, they were losing their will to fight. Commander Zach Thule was discovering this firsthand. His warriors were reporting strange things. Nightmares about the mammals, fear of entering buildings, hesitation in combat. These were emotions that Kethvar were not supposed to feel. "Commander," Morgesh said carefully, "some of the warriors are asking permission to return to the ships." "Return to the ships? We are in the middle of a hunt. They say the mammals are not natural. They say they fight like demons and feel no fear. They say this world is cursed." Zakthul wanted to be angry, but he could not. He was starting to feel the same fear himself. In 3 days of fighting, his mighty hunting fleet had accomplished nothing except losing good warriors to an enemy that should not have been able to fight back. The humans were not just defending their world. They were winning. And the worst part was Zakthul was beginning to understand that this was only the beginning. The mammals were learning from every battle. They were getting stronger while his own forces grew weaker. For the first time in his long life, Commander Zakthul was afraid. Colonel Frank Davis stood in front of a wall covered with maps and photographs. 2 weeks had passed since the alien invasion began. The pictures showed something that would have seemed impossible just days ago. Kethvar warriors lying dead in the streets, alien ships burning, human soldiers carrying captured alien weapons. The war was changing. The hunters were becoming the hunted. "Show me the latest reports," Frank said to his aide, Lieutenant Carol Jones. Carol pulled up a computer screen. "Tokyo reports another successful ambush. 6 aliens dead, no human casualties. London says they have captured an alien supply depot. Berlin has surrounded a group of 12 aliens in the old subway system." Frank nodded. Each victory was small, but they were adding up. More importantly, the aliens were starting to make mistakes. Big mistakes. "What about the psychological warfare program?" Frank asked. Dr. Helen Price looked up from her research notes. "Working better than we hoped. The Kethvar are pack hunters. They depend on feeling confident and superior, but every time they lose a battle, it affects their whole group." Helen had been studying captured alien communications. What she found was fascinating and terrifying. The Kethvar were not just individual fighters. They were connected to each other through scent and sound in ways humans barely understood. When one alien felt fear, others could smell it. When one died, the others knew instantly. "They are like wolves," Helen explained, "but wolves that have never lost a fight. Now that they are losing, their whole system is breaking down." Corporal Mike Torres was seeing this breakdown firsthand in the ruins of Phoenix. He had been tracking a group of 5 alien warriors for 3 days. What he saw through his binoculars shocked him. The aliens were arguing with each other, using harsh sounds and aggressive body language. One of them kept looking over his shoulder like he expected an attack. Another was limping from a wound that should have healed days ago. These were not the confident predators that had landed on Earth 2 weeks ago. These were scared, confused creatures that had lost their way. Mike spoke quietly into his radio. "Command, this is Torres. The alien patrol is showing signs of stress. They are not working together like before. I think they are ready to break." "Copy that, Torres. Spring the trap." Mike had spent 2 days setting up this ambush. He had left false trails and fake evidence of human movement. He had used captured alien scent markers to confuse their tracking. Most importantly, he had learned to think like a Kethvar hunter. Aliens thought they were following a group of fleeing humans. In reality, they were walking into a carefully planned kill zone where 20 human soldiers waited with captured plasma weapons and improvised explosives. But Mike had added something new to this trap. Something that would hurt the aliens more than bullets or bombs. As the Kethvar patrol entered the ambush area, speakers hidden in the rubble began to play recordings. The sounds of dying aliens, the screams of Kethvar warriors calling for help that never came, the death cries of their own kind. The effect was immediate and devastating. The 5 aliens stopped moving. Their yellow eyes went wide with an emotion they had rarely felt before. Terror. "Now," Mike whispered. The ambush began, but it was over almost before it started. The aliens were so shocked and scared that they barely fought back. 3 died in the first few seconds. The other 2 tried to run and were cut down before they could escape. Mike looked at the dead aliens and felt no satisfaction. These creatures had come to Earth expecting easy prey. Instead, they had found predators that were better at hunting than they were. Lieutenant Nancy Kim was proving this same point in the sewers under Chicago. She had learned that HFY warriors relied heavily on their sense of smell to navigate and hunt. So she had spent days filling the tunnels with chemical smokes and alien scents that confused their noses. Now a hunting party of 8 aliens was lost in the darkness below the city. They could not smell where they were going. They could not track their prey. They could barely find each other. Nancy and her team moved through the tunnels like ghosts. They knew every pipe, every junction, every dead end. The sewers were their territory now, and the aliens were the ones who were lost. Target acquired, Nancy whispered into her radio as she watched one of the aliens stumble around a corner alone. The creature was making noise like a lost animal. It was calling for its pack members, but they were too far away to help. Nancy fired once with her captured plasma rifle. The alien dropped without a sound. 1 down, 7 to go. Over the next 2 hours, Nancy's team picked off the aliens one by one. They used the darkness, the confusing tunnels, and their knowledge of the terrain to turn the hunt inside out. The end, 8 HFY warriors were dead, and not a single human had been hurt. Dr. Alan Brooks was in his mobile laboratory, studying the brain of a recently killed alien, when he made a discovery that changed everything. The HFY were not just losing their confidence, they were losing their ability to think clearly. "Look at this," he told his assistant, pointing to a brain scan. "The stress chemicals in their system are actually damaging their ability to make decisions. They are becoming less intelligent the more scared they get. What does that mean for us? It means we are not just beating them. We are making them stupid. Every defeat makes them easier to defeat next time." This information was immediately sent to every human commander on the planet. The aliens were not just physically vulnerable. They were mentally falling apart. General Carol Adams read the report with amazement. She had been a soldier for 20 years, but she had never seen anything like this. An enemy that became weaker every time they lost a battle. "How are our forces doing?" she asked her staff. "Better than expected," replied Colonel Davis. "Morale is high, casualties are lower than predicted, and we are capturing more alien equipment every day." It was true. Human soldiers were now carrying HFY weapons as standard equipment. Human engineers had figured out how to use alien technology to make better armor and vehicles. Most importantly, human tactics were evolving faster than the aliens could adapt. Commander Zakthol sat in his command chair, staring at casualty reports that made no sense. In 2 weeks of fighting, he had lost over half of his warriors. Worse, the ones who were still alive were barely functional as fighters. "Commander," Morgesh said carefully, "I have received a request from the hunting pack leaders. They want permission to withdraw to the ships." "Withdraw?" Zakthul could barely say the word. In 3,000 years of hunting, the HFY had never withdrawn from any fight. They say the mammals are using some kind of mind control. They say this planet makes our warriors weak and afraid. They want to leave and find easier prey. Zakthul knew the truth was worse than mind control. The truth was that they had finally found a species that was better at hunting than they were. The humans were not using special powers or advanced technology. They were simply better fighters. "What about the other hunting fleets?" Zakthul asked. "Are they having better success?" Morgesh looked uncomfortable. "No, Commander. The reports from all 12 landing sites are the same. Heavy casualties, no significant captures. The mammals are winning everywhere." For the first time in his life, Zakthul understood what prey felt like. The feeling of being hunted by something bigger, smarter, and more dangerous than yourself. The feeling of knowing that no matter how hard you fought, you were going to lose. On Earth, President Robert Hayes stood before the United Nations General Assembly. For the first time in human history, every nation on the planet was working together toward a single goal. "The alien invaders came here expecting to find easy victims," he said. "Instead, they found something they had never encountered before. They found humanity united. They found Earth defended. They found out what happens when you threaten our home." The president paused and looked around the room at representatives from every country on Earth. We are winning this war. And soon, we are going to make sure these aliens never threaten anyone else again. General Carol Adams stood on the bridge of the captured HFY ship, looking out at the stars through alien windows. 3 weeks had passed since the invasion began. 3 weeks that had changed everything. The message had come that morning. Commander Zakthul wanted to talk. The leader of the galaxy's most feared hunters was asking for a meeting. He wanted to discuss terms for his forces to leave Earth. It was the first time in galactic history that the HFY had ever asked to stop a hunt. Carol looked at the human soldiers working at alien control stations. They had learned to use HFY technology faster than anyone thought possible. Human engineers were already building better versions of alien weapons. Human pilots were flying captured alien ships. "General," said Commander Jack Sullivan, walking up behind her, "the alien leader is ready to meet." Jack had led the boarding party that captured this ship 2 days ago. The HFY crew had barely fought back. They seemed more interested in surrendering than dying for their cause. "How many of them are left?" Carol asked. "Our best estimate is maybe 150 aliens still alive on the planet. Out of 600 that landed, the rest are either dead or have fled back to their ships in orbit." Carol nodded. The numbers told the story. The galaxy's apex predators had been nearly wiped out by a species they had considered primitive prey. "Commander." Zakthul was brought into the room by 2 human guards. The mighty alien warrior looked nothing like the confident predator who had arrived 3 weeks ago. His black scales were dull and scratched. His yellow eyes looked tired and afraid. He moved like an old, broken animal. "You wanted to talk," Carol said simply. Zakthul looked around the room at the humans operating his ship better than his own crew had. "Yes, I want to make a deal." "What kind of deal?" "My people will leave your world. We will never return. In exchange, you let the survivors go back to our ships." Carol studied the alien commander. This creature had come to Earth planning to conquer and enslave humanity. Now he was begging for permission to run away. "That's it?" she asked. "You just want to leave?" "Yes. We made a mistake. We did not understand what your species was capable of. We thought you were prey. We were wrong." Dr. Helen Price stepped forward. She had been studying the HFY for weeks now. "Tell me, Commander, what will you report to your Galactic Council about humans?" Zakthul was quiet for a long time. "I will tell them the truth, that we found a species more dangerous than ourselves, that humans are not prey. They are predators, the deadliest predators in the galaxy. And what do you think they will do with that information? Some will not believe it. They will think we are weak or lying. They will send their own fleets to test humanity." Carol and Helen exchanged looks. This was what they had expected. Earth's victory over the HFY would bring more attention, not less. "Others will be afraid," Zakthul continued. "They will try to destroy humanity before humans can spread to other worlds. They will see you as a threat to everything they have built." "Let them come," said Commander Sullivan. "We'll be ready." Zakthul looked at Sullivan with something that might have been respect. "You do not understand. There are species in the galaxy with technology far beyond what the HFY possess. Weapons that can destroy entire star systems. Fleets of thousands of ships. Then we'll learn to fight them too," Carol said simply, "just like we learned to fight you." The meeting ended an hour later. The terms were simple. All surviving HFY would leave Earth immediately. They would never return to human space. In exchange, humanity would not hunt down and kill the aliens, who had fled to their ships. But there was one more condition that Carol added, a condition that would change everything. "You will carry a message to your Galactic Council," she told Zakthul. "You will tell them that Earth claims its place among the civilized worlds of the galaxy. We want peaceful relations with all species, but any attempt to conquer or enslave humanity will be met with the same fate you have suffered." Zakthul agreed. He had no choice. 2 days later, The Kethvar fleet left Earth's orbit. 12 ships had arrived. Only 8 left, and those were carrying fewer than 200 survivors of the galaxy's most feared hunting force. President Robert Hayes stood before the cameras, addressing not just Earth, but the entire galaxy. Human engineers had modified captured alien communication equipment to broadcast across the known civilized worlds. To all species who might be listening, he began. Humanity extends an offer of friendship and trade. We wish to learn from you and share what we have learned. But we will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved. We will not be prey. He paused, looking directly into the camera. We are humans. We are from Earth, and we are no one's victims. The broadcast was heard on thousands of worlds across the galaxy. The reactions were immediate and varied. On the industrial world of Mechanus Prime, the robot-like constructors calculated the military implications of humanity's victory. A species that could defeat the Kethvar was worth studying, and possibly allying with. In the crystal cities of Lumina, the psychic ethereals probed the mental echoes of the human broadcast. They sensed something they had never encountered before, a species with minds that could not be controlled or broken by fear. On the war-torn battlefields of the contested zone, various species fighting each other suddenly had a new concern. If humans could beat the Kethvar, what did that mean for their own conflicts? Dr. Helen Price was now Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy. She worked day and night to decode alien languages and protocols. Humanity needed to understand how galactic politics worked if they were going to survive in this larger universe. We're getting responses to the broadcast, she told President Hayes. Some are friendly, some are curious, some are definitely hostile. How many hostile responses? About 30%. But that's better than I expected. The other 70% either want to trade with us or are too scared to risk fighting us. It was true. Humanity's reputation was spreading faster than anyone had anticipated. The species that had defeated the Kethvar was suddenly the most talked about civilization in the galaxy. Colonel Frank Davis was promoted to general and put in charge of Earth's new space defense force. His job was to prepare for whatever came next. He knew that more tests were coming. Other species would want to see if humanity's victory had been luck or skill. How are our preparations going? Asked Admiral Pete Collins, who had survived the first space battle and was now building Earth's new fleet. Better than expected, Frank replied. We've reverse-engineered most of the Kethvar technology. Our new ships are faster and better armed than anything they had. More importantly, we've learned how to fight in space. The first test came 6 months later. A species called the Ravagers sent a small fleet to probe Earth's defenses. They were raiders and pirates who thought humans might be easy targets despite their victory over the Kethvar. They were wrong. The human fleet that met them was nothing like the desperate defenders who had faced the Kethvar. These were experienced space warriors flying ships designed for combat. The battle lasted less than an hour. Not a single human ship was lost. Word of this second victory spread even faster than the first. Humanity was not just lucky. They were legitimately dangerous. More species began reaching out to Earth with offers of trade and alliance. The constructors wanted to exchange technology. The ethereals offered to teach humans about psychic abilities. The peaceful gardener species invited human explorers to visit their worlds. But others were planning different responses. In the deepest parts of space, ancient species with vast fleets and terrible weapons were waking up to discuss what to do about the new threat from Earth. General Carol Adams, now Supreme Commander of Earth Defense, stood in her new office looking at reports from across the galaxy. Humanity had won its first 2 tests, but she knew bigger challenges were coming. Are we ready for what comes next? Asked her aide. Carol smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a predator who had found her place in the galactic food chain. We're human, she said. We're always ready for a fight, and now the galaxy knows it too. Outside her window, construction crews were working on humanity's first starship designed for deep space exploration. Soon humans would be traveling to other worlds. They would be carrying their message of friendship to species that wanted peace. and their promise of destruction to species that wanted war. The galaxy had spent thousands of years learning to fear the Kethvar. Now they were learning to fear something much more dangerous. They were learning to fear the species that had made the Kethvar afraid.